So Mysore is definitely one of the more chilled out places. Going straight through it. You know, it's green. Let's go this way. This is Mysore. This city is a 500-year-old architectural scar. It's been invaded, reclaimed and rebranded so many times it will make your head spin. And to understand why there is an odd-looking palace here and a church twinned with one in Germany, we have to go north a little, to an island where the geography became destiny. This is Srirangapatna, a fortress carved by water. For a civilization, this river is a natural moat, a logistical nightmare for an invading army. But for the architects who were here before the 10th century, this wasn't just a defensive line. It was a garland for a god. In the ancient world, power doesn't appear in a vacuum. It's built on sacred legitimacy. The city is named after this, the Ranganathaswamy Temple. It stood here for over a millennium. Inside, Lord Vishnu isn't a warrior, he's reclining on a serpent in cosmic stillness. This is the work of the Sthapati, hereditary guilds of architects who turned granite into incredible architecture. The temple wasn't just a place of prayer, it was the economic battery. It powered the masons, the guilds and the markets. It was the original epicenter of Mysore society. And for centuries this sacred logic held firm. But in the 1700s the world changed. Gunpowder arrived, a new kind of ruler took the throne, Tipu Sultan, and the skyline began to speak a different language. This is the Masjid-i-Ala. Notice the shift? We've moved from the horizontal earthbound weight of the Hindu temple to a vertical sky-piercing geometry of the Islamic world. This wasn't just about faith, it was about assertion of sovereignty. Tipu wasn't just a ruler, he was a disruptor. He was looking past the borders of India, courting the French and modernizing his military. His architecture had to reflect that global ambition. But Tipu's real architectural soul is here, at his summer palace. It's built almost entirely of teak. It's elegant, sure, but look at the murals. They don't just show gods, they show war. They show Tipu's father, Hyder Ali, defeating the British. For Tipu, architecture was propaganda. This is crazy beautiful. These paintings depict the 153 different rulers of South India. And each palace is shown here, and the rulers inside them, and it just goes on through the arch. Is that one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen? He used local artisans to build an Indo-Islamic style, whilst training his tiger soldiers with European tactics. He was the first ruler here to realize that if you don't modernize your walls, the world will knock them down. In 1799, the island's geography, which had protected it for thousands of years, finally failed. The British arrived, and they didn't just bring soldiers, they brought engineers, and they found weaknesses in the stone. After a 30-day siege, the walls were breached. Tipu Sultan, the Tiger of Mysore, didn't die in a palace. He died in the mud of a gateway. With his death, the capital shifted. The British didn't want an island fortress, they wanted a supervised monarchy. Srirangapatna was left to become a relic, and the centre of power moved back to Mysore city. With the tiger gone, the British didn't just plant a flag. They hit the reset button on history. They went back to the original guardians of this land, the Wodeyars. This family had ruled Mysore since 1300s, first as loyalists to the great Hampi empires. We're going to explore more on the Hampi empire, so make sure to subscribe. After the Hampi empires, they would rule as independent kings, but for 40 years under Tipu, they were sidelined and nearly erased. It was the ultimate royal comeback.
It's called Indo-Saracenic architecture, and that is what this building is. This is Mughal meets India meets Britain in the very best way. Look at those beautiful red domes. So the one in the very center is gold plated, which we can see right in the center point. It's all symmetrical. There's 7 arches. This place was actually built by a mother for her son, which is quite cool. And the really interesting thing about it is it's not the original palace. The original palace actually burnt down. This one was built by somebody we've met before in Shimla, Henry Irwin. He's the architect who did the Viceregal building. This is perhaps the most important building in India. Never mind the Taj. This is the Viceregal building in Shimla, and this is where the independence agreement was drawn up. Now, Henry Irwin was commissioned to do this building as well, and this building was complete in 1912. Designed by Henry Irwin, built by the people of India.
Irwin used a massive central gold dome to anchor the symmetry, while the red domes represent the fusion of Rajput and Mughal styles. It's a literal warehouse of global influence, right down to the Scottish iron holding up the ceilings. But I think you will agree it's a pretty impressive one.
This is really beautiful, but you can see the arches that are from the external facade here. The canopy that guides you in if you're a guest, and you can see they're all extruded into the building, and they just carry up and over, meeting these beautiful elements here that guide you further into the building.
So the monarchy was back, but they weren't warriors anymore, they were patrons. And this building is one of the most beautiful pieces of soft power on planet Earth. But don't just look here, look at the wider skyline.
Just in the distance you can see the 2 twin peaks. These 2 twin peaks are 53 meters high, and it is a pure Gothic revival building. You've got a French architect using German Gothic revival ideas here in the heart of Karnataka in Mysore. Pretty wild really, but pretty darn cool. So let's go and have a look.
So why is a German-inspired church sitting in the heart of South India?
That's cool though, right?
Well, because in the 20th century, Mysore was a negotiation. The king was proving he could be modern, global, and inclusive. By hosting a skyline of diverse faiths and styles, the monarchy secured its place in the British Empire while keeping its own culture alive. It's theatrical, it's slightly ironic, and it's visually genius. But while the kings and the British were busy building monuments to their own legitimacy, something else was happening. Away from the palace and the cathedrals, the real city was breathing.
Seems to have found the very centre point of Mysore.
The empires were starting to fade, but the people, they were just getting started. And to see what actually survives when power changes hands, we have to go to where the jasmine smells stronger than the incense.
Nice, so that's... there it is. So that's the main market there.
This is Devaraja Market. If the palace is Mysore's Sunday best, this is the heartbeat. For generations, while empires were being dismantled outside, these families were refining the architecture of trade. Kings and sultans can change the names of streets, but they can't change the way people buy jasmine and turmeric. This is the ultimate proof. Empires fade, but markets stay. And if you want to get the real stories of this city, then you will find them here, and of course, at the local bar. Overlooking it all is the Shree Chamundeshwari Temple. Here you will find the fierce form of Shakti, the slayer of demons, and in fact Mysore is actually named after the demon she killed, Mahisha Uru. And looking at the turbulent history of this valley, you could argue she's had her work cut out for her. Finally, we have the ultimate modern power move, the Krishnaraja Sangar Dam. In the 20th century, power stopped being about swords or stained glass and it became about water. This was an engineering feat that transformed the entire region's economy. It took the ancient sacred river that we saw earlier and turned it into a state building tool. The dam released the agricultural potential of the area, and to celebrate, on top of it all, you will find the Brindavana Gardens.
Currently at Brindavana Gardens, and it's effectively a garden where you can explore a lot of different places with waterfalls, water features. Let me show you.
It feels slightly gimmicky, especially when you're stood watching a fountain dance, but it's kind of the point. The water is dancing almost ironically as now it is trapped, but in being trapped it actually set the area free. It would also flood another temple that would be reconstructed from scratch, but we will look at that in a blueprint special. The palace might be the face of Mysore, but if you want to find its soul, you have to leave the city behind and explore all these places that we have seen here today. I will drop all of these places into a map on the Backpackers Blueprint homepage, so make sure to find it there. That is everything from us here in Mysore. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, make sure to like, share and subscribe, and I will see you in Belur and Halubidu where things get crazy.